Hi everybody, my name's Miriam Divine and welcome to my channel. Here we talk about all kinds of spiritual things, and we're working today on Damo's Cave, or Domo, depending how I pronounce them. It's an exercise to work on your creativity. It can also be done as a spiritual journey to understand different things in visualization of chakras or entering the spirit world and all kinds of stuff. It's really the base level of internal journey work. And it's a technique that I learned, oh gosh, I think I was a teenager, basically a freshman in high school when I got this. My mother gave me this book right here, Path Notes of an American Ninja Master by Glenn Morse. Unfortunately, he has passed a long time ago. But this book has really shaped my spiritual journey and how I view things, how I do things. And it's kind of written like a ninja scroll, so you kind of have to take some of it with a grain of salt and you have to go through it and understand it. Well, let's get a little bit more on Damo himself before we get into the exercise. Damo was a Hindu monk or priest. I think he was a monk. And he traveled around a lot, just kind of like Jesus did. He traveled around a lot. And he is the one who found himself with the Shaolin, who were having a lot of health issues and problems. And he goes up on this, they call it the wall, but it's basically he was sitting in a cave on the side of a mountain. The wall looks out over the landscape. And he sits there for 9 years in meditation, and then comes out of it and comes back and tells the Shaolin, here's how you really need to do it. And he really revitalized the Shaolin and how they got their abilities and all the great cool Shaolin stuff you see on YouTube and stuff. It's because of this guy, right? And he had a lot of different names, and a lot of times he's depicted in art or painted or whatever with not having any eyelids, because they say, this is, one of those, they say he tore his eyelids off or cut them off so he wouldn't fall asleep during meditation, which is probably a bunch of malarkey because he would have had all kinds of issues. But he probably really did, because it is an issue when you're meditating and stuff, that because you drop down into such a deep concentration or deep relaxation that you might fall asleep. And everybody does it at least once in their life. It could happen to you. And actually, if you're trying to sleep, there's great techniques for going to sleep if you can't fall asleep. And honestly, if you look back at my, I believe it was the centering video, that is the very basics for that type of meditation. In fact, before you do this meditation, pause the video and do a real quick centering exercise or single point focus exercise, kind of like a relaxation, to get your brain in the mode of Damo's Cave. Because we're not going to repeat, that 5 minutes that you should really do before you do this exercise. Now, this one can be done laying down, sitting up. I personally like to do a lot of my meditation sitting up for the very reason Damo cut off his eyelids. I will fall asleep. And, I know when I was doing the really massive meditations, I'd literally eat chocolate-covered espresso beans, whether I was sitting up or laying down, because my brain would fall asleep. So, like Damo, I am not perfect. So they say this exercise is good for creativity, which it really is. If you want to develop your creativity, this is a great exercise for that. I'm going to read, when I do, right out of this book. But I would say, how do I want to describe this? Everyone's cave will look different because everyone's different. You visualize things different than I visualize things. And of course, I've been doing this exercise now for decades. And so my cave is very developed. I have a lot of interesting intricacies with my cave, which you may or may not, especially in the very beginning. This is a very basic, it's only like a page and a half of text. And this is like the basics. And what you want to do with this exercise is, of course, relax and then get into it. But you can do this exercise as many times or as few times as you want. This might be the only one time you ever do this, or you can develop this over a long period of time and do it once a month or once a week, depending on how you want to develop and explore your own inner workings. But it's also very good for, protection and shadow work and stuff like that. Now, in here, he talks about doing the secret smile, which is a protection exercise, which I haven't done that video yet. But if I have done that video by the time you see this, you can do your secret smile beforehand, right? Because that's like a protection. And honestly, doing any type of meditation, especially spiritual journeys, shamanic journeys, you do open yourself up to the spirit world. And partly Damo's cave, which is not described here in the book, is you're opening yourself up to the spirit world and spirits, and you can actually use Damo's cave to communicate and work with spirits outside of yourself. But a lot of this is for inner work, okay? So I might as well, we'll just go ahead and get into it. And I may or may not have to stop and cut and redo this part. The front half seems okay. See if I can get my glasses on, you know, and get my studious look here. Oh boy, I can't see you because they're readers, but I can read my book now. Okay, Damo's cave exercise. So we're going to go ahead and read right as he has it written. I'm not going to alter the text much and add anything into it. I'm just going to read it. So he starts off with, hit the position of choice. Do the PG-rated version of the secret smile. And then once you're relaxed and happy, picture yourself emerging from water on a beach. Oh, by the way, everybody close your eyes. If you haven't got that far, let's close your eyes. Okay, because you want to visualize. Okay, now try to read this a little bit softer. Once you're relaxed and happy, picture yourself emerging from the water on a beach, and then walking across a plain towards a mountain. As you walk along, it seems as if your feet draw energy from the ground, and every step makes you feel strong and confident. As you begin to climb the mountain, you see ahead an old abandoned temple and graveyard, which you skirt, but notice that there's bathing pools still holding water within the ruined interior. You continue to climb, and it is getting tougher. As you begin to tire and lean against the rocks and trees, you find that you can draw strength with your hands as well as your feet, and that gives you more energy to continue your climb. Ahead of you, on a slightly different trail, you see a cave with an inviting entrance. You go toward it, and a guardian wearing a cloak that masks identity gestures to you to enter and bows so you feel accepted and a bit like a well-loved king or queen. You enter the cave and find a long, downward descending tunnel with phosphorescent walls that glow with enough light to see. This descending ramp opens into a large subterranean room. In the back, at quite a distance, there is a bed of glowing lava. On your left is a tall podium supporting a large leather-bound tome which has written across it in the words of flaming gold, "All knowledge is power. Seeking truth, first ye look here." Beyond this large book's podium is a room containing a massive communication and computer center looking somewhat like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. You can see 3 seats in there. One is yours. There is a young woman and a young man working in the room. They do not see you yet. To the right is a great stairway with 5 steps. Each step is a different colored wide slab with a door opening off it. The first step is red, and its door is heavy and barred, but you can see that it opens onto a rugged ancient desert, and in its distance you can make out a city built from stone. The next step is orange, and its doorway is a Dutch door looking out onto a babbling stream and flows down through a forest to a vast lake or ocean. There is a ship approaching. The next step is bright yellow, and it is a door intricately carved and looks out onto a city that is both modern and ancient. It seems to be sheltering many different kinds of people. Some even look like elves. As you focus your attention there, you hear a faint laughter and music and the clink of glassware. The next step up is green, and it seems to opening into the sky. You can see a bird floating. It's like looking up an upstairs window. The sky is cloudless and light blue. The last step is tilted and spirals off into the distance in various shades of blue and violet, fading into white. It almost seems to penetrate the dark rock of the cave in the distance. It is rather strange. In the center before you is a series of rooms that are your living quarters. There is your bath, sleeping quarters, garden, library, laboratory, personal dojo and instructor, machine workshop, stables, and kitchen. You explore to make certain all is as you want it. You are surprised to find an animal in a back room that regards you as its master. In one of the rooms, you find a secret panel, and in another there is a hidden trapdoor under a rug. You do not enter these at this time, as they are dark. When you have familiarized yourself with the contents of your cave and feel certain, you can return whenever you wish to improve it. For instruction or to play, allow your eyes to open. Okay. Okay. Well, that is the really brief, basic version of Damo's Cave. And as you can see, it goes pretty quickly in the book. So you're probably going to have to go back and listen and re-listen. I'll try to put a little bookmark either in a comment or in the video. And you'll have to go back and replay it and slow it down, or just, listen to it and then visualize it on your own so that you can work with and go and explore the different rooms. Now, he in the book, of course, goes on and talks about some of his students' caves, some of, his cave, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to talk about my cave a little bit. Now, of course, my cave has developed. When I climb out of the water, I spend about a minute, maybe 5 minutes, depending on where I was in my working, in the water itself, because the water is the basis of life, and your build and how you look, how you feel, is developed in the water. And mine's very murky, and I come out of the water onto the beach. I actually stop and sun myself on the beach and lay out on the beach or on a rock and dry up. And then I walk through a set of woods where I meet some various things in the woods that can aid me up to where the desert, before you can even see the mountain, right? And then, of course, there's the mountain, and there's some animals and stuff in the desert or the plains. It's not really a desert, it's actually plains. And I go across the plains. And, of course, I, draw energy from the ground, from the sky. And the same with the mountain. And, of course, I've explored the temples and stuff. I actually have a rock where there's an angel and a demon sitting who are in endless discussion over things. And my cave, my little denizen who lets me in, greets me, and generally hands me a bathrobe because I'm usually naked by this point. I don't have clothes. It's up to you whether you get clothes on the beach or where you find them. Mine, I'm not given a robe until I reach the cave entrance. So, and then I walk down and see my computer room, which I've worked a lot with. It looks more than just the Star Trek Enterprise kind of thing. It's a huge room full of computers and all kinds of interesting panels and stuff. My tome of knowledge, which he talks about his. This is actually a little exercise you can use for taking tests and stuff for the college students watching this. He mentions one of his, PhD level students would write down, study and write down all the answers to the test or to information in his tome. And then during the test, if he couldn't recall it, he'd close his eyes and run into his cave, open up his tome, and then read the answer, and then come back and know the question. And he says the student was like a 4.0, PhD physics person. So it does work. But your tome is there. I have many tomes laying all over the place. Mine's almost like a big pile of mismatched library currently. And then my rooms, of course, I have many different rooms. There's different things that you can explore. And we'll get into some of those areas as we move through our different shamanic journeys, because a lot of times I start off in the water and emerging from the water. And you don't have to emerge into Damo's Cave. You can emerge anywhere you want to. So it's a little bit about my cave. Sometimes your cave, some people, they experience their cave as very non-visual because they're not, in today's day and technology, almost everybody can visualize everything. It's harder to have the attention span to meditate for 20 minutes than it is to actually visualize something. Because we've seen movies, we've seen videos, we've seen all this stuff. It's really easy to visualize. At the time of this book, people a lot of times are just readers. They only auditory hear. And if you are an auditory hearer, add sound, add smell, add feeling, add touch, add body awareness. The more aspects of visualization you can get, the better your cave will be. And we'll actually do some more meditations on increasing your ability to smell and see and taste and all those kind of things. We'll get to those eventually in other future videos. There's a lot of different little techniques that we're going to get into that will aid your visualization and aid you in real life. But we'll get to those. So Damo's cave is kind of like the very basic level of visualization inside of the mind. And it really does help a lot when you're working on other things. When you're working with your chakra work, if you notice the stairs are different colors, they correspond to the chakras. The big book of knowledge corresponds to your knowledge of what you know now and what you can access, and other bits like future knowledge, other past lives knowledge. That's why I got a lot of tomes and a lot of books, because they go into past lives and their knowledges and stuff. So, and of course the computer room is a wonderful place to clean up junk in your brain and to help access shadow work and stuff like in there, as well as places like your dojo and your little temples and stuff that you have. I know my bedroom is very extensive for rest, for getting ready, and literally, I have a huge closet there, as well as I have people inside of my, it's not just vacant for just me. Not only I have a pet, I have several pets, and I have friends, spirit guides, whatever I want to call them, past lives, whatever, inside of my cave. So your cave can be any way you want to make it. You don't have to follow my pattern. You can follow your pattern. And honestly, I'm writing a book about my explorations, a little bit of the cave, just a tiny touch. So that's Damo's cave in a really short part. If you have any questions, which most likely you do, please write them below in the comments. If you want to see future videos on any topic, I know a lot of spiritual stuff I've been studying for, decades and decades. So either I know how to find the information and dig it up, or I have personal experience, which I probably do. So also, if you like my video, please like and subscribe. I will continue to put out content on spiritual things of interesting value. Eventually, we're going to get to how to activate our Kundalini and stuff like that in future videos. But we need the basics first, and that's what all these little videos are the basics. So that's what I have for you for today. I do love you all. Have a good one. Bye.